All right, welcome back to the DC Stewart Show podcast, along with my kinfolk Isaiah and Najee. Isaiah and Najee is not here with us today; they're away on assignment. But I do have TJ. He's a special guest with us today, and we did our first half analysis of this game and what we thought was going to happen, and we both kind of made the prediction that Texas was going to have a balanced game and be able to win this game because this was a game that Texas needed. They had to have this game. There was no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Without a doubt, if they would have lost this game, you could have kissed the rest of the season goodbye as far as a national championship was concerned. One thing is for sure is I was pretty impressed with the way Sark called this game and the balance that Texas had running the ball, because we both stressed also that Texas needed an effective running game, and they got what they needed today. They got a very, very effective running game going against Oklahoma. Their defense obviously started wearing down, and guess what? Texas's defense never wore down. So hit that like button and subscribe to us, because when you subscribe to us, the algorithm really helps us out, and we're making some strides here. Going to be making some, updates next week. We're going to be adding some new videos in. We'll be adding some shorts in tonight. But TJ, what did you think of the game today? Tell me a little bit about what your analysis was on the takeaways.
Well, just like you said, we said before the game, the team that can run the ball is going to win the game. Texas was better running the ball. Trey Wisner kind of took over the game in the second half. And he was a guy who was good for us last year, has not been great this year, but also obviously our run blocking hasn't been great either. But I just need that guy to break some tackles. And in that second half, he started running hard and breaking tackles. Our defense looked back up to snuff, like we said before the game. I expect our defense to come out and make this a rock fight, and that's exactly what happened. Mateer didn't look great. He threw a lot of balls that were intercepted and a lot more that could have been or maybe should have been intercepted. He threw what should have been a pick to McDonald. McDonald dropped it. Should have been an easy pick six. There was a ball he threw behind the line of scrimmage that ended up being a fumble that Taft could just pick up and either fall down or go into the end zone. So we actually left a lot of stuff on the field. We missed 2 field goals today. But overall, our defense just wasn't going to be scored on today. Mateer, I don't think I guess you never know, but it didn't look like they only threw the ball deep a couple times, and on those deep throws, it looked like his thumb wasn't right, and he can't hit those deep throws. And once Texas realized that, they kind of just cheated up and just locked everything down up front. Oklahoma could not run the ball to save their lives, which we talked about before the game. They can't run the ball just like Texas can't run the ball. So one of the teams is going to have to be able to run the ball. That team was Texas today. Oklahoma couldn't run the ball at all. Mateer was shaken. And once, we didn't really get a lot of pressure with 4. We got some, but we blitzed so much in this game, and Mateer was just putting the ball into play. And once we realized that he's just going to play jackpot all day and put the ball into play, you're not going to be able to beat an elite defense doing that, just because even if you win a couple jump balls, you're going to lose some too. So, defense came and set the tone. I thought Arch was fine. He played composed. It still is a little weird how little he runs, but in the second half, there were a couple QB runs that were schemed, and then a couple more scrambles that Arch hit that really extended drives, and we were able to get the job done. It's just this was easily our best, the best we looked offensively. We didn't have a million penalties. We're one of the worst teams in the country when it comes to penalties. Penalties were about even in this game, so we didn't have a million penalties that were killing us on drives. And I got to give a shout out to Nick Brooks, who's a freshman backup tackle who started at left guard today. True freshman. Got 2 penalties on the first drive. Got a holding penalty and a false start. Looked like things were too big for him because last week he came into the Florida game, I think in the third quarter, the fourth quarter, and he had 2 false starts in a row. It just looked like the kid at the moment was too big for the kid. He settled down and he played a really good football game up front and really helped the offensive line, which wasn't great by any means, but he helped to kind of settle the offensive line in. And when he started the game like that, I was mad. I was like, why is there a true freshman tackle in the game at left guard? Like, not have a guard on the roster, whoever was supposed to start or whoever those backups are. We've got a senior guy named Neto who's been on the team a million years, and you're putting in this true freshman. But I see why. He's huge, very, very big dude. And if he can ever learn to like really move out there at tackle or guard, he's going to be a good player. But I thought today he grew up a lot, and it scared me a lot when he was out there. But obviously, he's doing something in practice that's showing the coaches, I know that I'm a true freshman, but I deserve to be out there in the biggest moments. And after that first drive, I don't think he had any more penalties. I think he just had those 2 on that first drive, and he settled in. It's just a good team win. Oklahoma, I've been kind of saying that Oklahoma's not as good as we like.
I think they were overrated a little bit. I think they just got a little too much credit too soon, too early.
I agree.
I've never been convinced that he had that type of dominant team that was going to be able to just run the table through the SEC like that, and they got exposed today. That's what happened.
It wasn't pretty. They haven't scored a touchdown on Texas since 2023, and they didn't score a touchdown today. So
that is a very interesting stat right there. It is, because you think about it, it's been heavily defensive over the last few years. I know both teams have been solid defensively, but Texas' defense looked exceptional today. I mean, they stuck it up. They came up and they made they literally let Oklahoma know that we're here and we're going to bring it to you today, because some of the hits that I saw and some of the tackles that I saw, Texas wasn't playing around with them today. They weren't going to let them shake off these tackles, and they weren't going to let them break tackles and things of that sort. So I think it was just an early point where Texas said, look, we're in here, we're going to hold you, but you're not going to be able to hold our offense today. And that's what I think happened overall, generally speaking. So here's what I have with John Mateer. I think John Mateer timing was off today. I think he came in and he might have tried to do too much. I mean, after all, he's been out a game, but that's no excuse. I mean, they should have had preparation and been ready to play Texas. But from what I observed throughout the first half, especially, was that he wasn't the guy that he was against Michigan. He just seemed timid at times. Texas's defense made that possible because Texas's defense was putting pressure on him. They put a lot of pressure on him, and he didn't have time to throw. He didn't have time to really kind of make his checkdowns as much as he thought he could,
Mm-hmm. We said before the game, we said the defense has to go be physical with him, not just because he's hurt, but also John Mateer thrives in chaos. He thrives when he makes a guy miss. All of a sudden, he's outside the pocket. All of a sudden, he's hitting a guy open down the field 20 yards. And they really didn't get a chance to do that today, because every time there was one guy in his face, there were two guys in his face. And he couldn't really thrive in chaos. And then he just made some just bonehead decisions, which has always been a part of his game, but he usually offsets it by what he's doing on the scoring side. But he made those two first half interceptions were two of the worst throws you'll see. That right. One to end the half, not only is Brent Venables completely, pooing on himself with the clock management, you're supposed to get a field goal there at least. Now the clock management goes bad. Now you put the ball in his hand one last time, and he just chucks it into the end zone like it's a Hail Mary. It's not a Hail Mary. You're in field goal range. That ball needs to be going to a receiver or going out of bounds. You cannot put that ball in play. They put their ball in play to get picked off, and he just wasn't seeing the field very good today. But it's just like you said. He hasn't faced pressure in that way. Like he played a Michigan and Auburn defenses. They're both good defenses, but they didn't blitz as much as we did. It's not like we were getting that pressure with 4. We were bringing the house and saying, you're going to have to show us that you can beat us before we back up. And Mateer never really proved that I can beat you guys deep when you bring 6-7 to the line.
Right.
He never not once proved that today. So, of course, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you're going to keep spamming those blitzes. And I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but we blitzed the entire game. That's pretty much all that we did. And I will give him some credit because he didn't have any help on offense. That offensive line and that run game was a disaster for Oklahoma.
Right.
So your quarterback is hurt, and he's got to go do everything. So now he might put the ball in a more risky spot because he realizes if I don't move the ball, we're not moving the ball. There was no running game to speak of. There was no run blocking to speak of. They were even doing QB runs, which obviously with a hurt quarterback, that just shows you they're desperate. They did a wide receiver pass in the first quarter of the game. To me, that just showed y'all are running out of ideas already. You realize this game is going to be on Mateer, and he don't look like he can go out there and give you 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So you got to try something else. And I just felt like they were kind of locked in a box all day.
Absolutely, well said. Because here's my thing with it is I mean, Texas's defensive backs and their linebackers, especially defensive backs, they were coming up. I mean, they weren't afraid for him to throw deep on them. And I like some of the disguises that Texas's defensive coordinator called to make it look like a certain, alignment for John Mateer, and they just completely the overhead shells and that things of that sort. The cover twos and things like that. He just disguised it really well, where Mateer was confused from the point that once that rush started on him, he didn't have time to even make decisions to go to his 1, 2, 3 checkdowns on some of his RPOs. And when he did try to run, he got punished. I mean, he got punished. And that safety for Texas, man, I think he's going pro, that number 16, and let me pull his name up.
Michael Taft.
Taft, yeah. Taft is a headhunter. And Taft
and made some big plays in that run game, some huge plays in that run game.
Huge plays. They were coming up making tackles on running backs. They were coming up making tackles. As soon as the ball touched the receiver's hands, they were on the ground. And that's kind of how you play defense against a team like Oklahoma. And I just don't think that Oklahoma was completely and totally prepared for what Texas was going to bring to this dance today, and they brought it, and it was a 23-6 victory. Texas has an opportunity now to turn it around, and what I mean by that is they've gotten back on track today, so they have no more. They can't run out of ways to lose anymore. They gotta win out. They just technically gotta win out from this point on time. And let me look at their schedule. Do you have their schedule available by chance?
The next game is Kentucky, and then it's Georgia.
Okay.
And then I think after that is Arkansas. I got it. We got Kentucky, and then it's Kentucky, then Mississippi State, then Vanderbilt, then Georgia, then Arkansas, then Texas A&M at home to end the year. So
the only asterisk I have that they potentially could be challenged is Georgia. I mean, that's the only one that I see right now. I mean, although these other teams can beat you, of course, on any given Saturday they can get beat, but technically on the schedule itself, I see Georgia as being the only obstacle for them not to be able to win out, because I could see them taking care of Vanderbilt. I could see them taking care of Kentucky. I could see them taking care of, Arkansas as well. Arkansas played tough today, though. I mean,
they did.
Isaiah and Najee and myself, we talked about that we thought that they were going to play harder with Bobby Petrino being the head coach. And guess what? Bobby Petrino is going to be offered the job if he's not already been offered the job. And that interim tag will be taken off of his name. And we were just questioning, how can you get fired from a job and then turn around and come back? And then you get a full-time job again at the same place you got fired. Well, Arkansas proves that can happen. I mean, it's realistic. And I just think that Sam Pittman gave it everything he had, and it just wasn't the right time for him. And I hope that Sam Pittman can get another job, because I actually liked him as a coach. So we'll see what Arkansas can do. It looks like Tennessee ended up winning that game today against Arkansas, even though Arkansas played them tough. Because it was 34, I believe it was 34 to 24, if I'm not mistaken. But
Tennessee played a good game for about 3/4 of that game. Arky impressed me with how they were able to stay in that game. And it's not we got some weird results. Like, look at what's happening around the country. Penn State lost to Northwestern. Like, these games are not guaranteed. Penn State lost, like you just said. Aller might be. I think they just announced Aller's done for the season.
He's out. He's out for the season. So they'll have a backup quarterback now that's going to have to take the helm and is going to have to play the rest of the season. I think he's got what was his injury, Drew Aller?
I think it was ankle. I'm trying to figure that out now.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up real quick while we're here and we're talking about it. It looks like it just says ending injury, which is a leg injury, because a lot of these teams they don't disclose initially what happened. A lot of times, based on some of the information, but it says an apparent leg injury here. And he was slated to go really high in the NFL draft next year, so this could potentially, put that in jeopardy as well. Wouldn't you think?
What do you think that looks like for him? Because even before he got hurt, it's not like he's been lighting the world on fire this year, coming into the year with all the hype. I wonder what you think that, like, what does that look like for his draft prospects? Because so many quarterbacks get drafted every year now, it seems, I would probably still guess that he's going first round, but good luck to whatever GM drafts that kid, because I think that he's got some real issues, some legitimate real issues in his game, even before the injury. I thought that he's
Right,
got real legitimate issues in his game. He really struggles with, like, when I heard someone say this, and once I heard him say that, I couldn't unsee it. He struggles with guys that are running away from him. If you got
right,
a guy cutting into the middle of the field, he's going to hit that guy every time. If you got a guy coming out of the backfield running a wheel route away from him, he's going to miss that guy. And he's got some real accuracy issues, and it just, I don't know. But he's got he's got prototypical size, but he's not really a runner, but he's got size. A lot of people are going to fall in love with the builds, but I would stay away, at least for day one draft
I
pick.
don't
I
think
just
he's a
don't
day
see it.
one pick. To be honest with you, even before this
Don't either.
injury, he's not a day one pick from
I
what
agree with
I
that.
observed. On in from
I agree
last
with
year when
that.
he played against Notre Dame, on into this year when he played, against Oregon at Penn State, and they were talking about, there was rumors that he was a top 5 pick. I don't know where they get their analytics and their data from. Basically, maybe just what you just said, they were basing it on his size and his prototypical, you know, his build of a quarterback in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't get it. I mean, that doesn't do it, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to adjust and be able to read defenses, and you have to be able to make better decisions than I've seen him make. And Penn State shouldn't have came up short today. I don't understand, because they had an effective running game against Northwestern, and they lost this game at home as well.
They lost this game at home.
This is
Three straight
shameful.
losses. Three straight losses. And if you can lose to UCLA and Northwestern, you could lose to anyone on the schedule, like any P4 team on the schedule. We are looking like Penn State could be Florida State from last year. There's no telling. Like, Penn State could win 2 more ball games and go 4-8. Things have fallen off the rails, and it might be time to have a conversation about James Franklin, which even though we've all had our own criticisms of James Franklin, I don't think anyone thought that this is what was going to happen this year with this team. I knew that they were going to go out there and lose some of the bigger games on their schedule, but I didn't know they were going to go out there and lose to the worst teams on their schedule, the worst P4 teams on their schedule. I think that is insane what's happening at Penn State.
It is insane, and the bottom line is James Franklin is the head coach, so he's technically responsible for the performance of the team. I mean, they that's highly predicated on how well the coach have the team ready to play, ready to take the field each time that they take the field against an opponent. And at the end of the day, he's going to be the one that's going to be, the finger is going to be pointed at, although sometimes it's out of a coach's hands when it comes to certain things, certain elements, when it comes to losses. And I agree with you that they might not be able to win very many more games this year. Now, I don't know what their backup quarterback looks like. Maybe they might have an opportunity with him,
The real
but
backup they let go down to Mizzou. This is the NIL era. This is the prototypical NIL era. Maybe there's years past they're keeping Bo Pabula, because if you remember, Bo Pabula left Penn State in the middle of the playoffs. Penn State was still in the playoffs when he left, and people were like, what happens if Aller goes down? This team's contending for a national championship, and their quarterback's in the portal because he's going to Mizzou. Well, Now that kid's at Mizzou. He lost to Bama today, and we'll see who they have rolling out there. But speaking of Penn State, Oregon needed overtime to beat Penn State. Granted, the game was at Penn State.
Right.
UCLA and Northwestern beat Penn State in regulation, and Northwestern also beat Penn State at home. I have always kind of thought this year that Oregon was slightly overrated as well. I think
Absolutely.
that Oregon's good. I think that Oregon's better than Oklahoma, for example. But they got a double-digit loss to Indiana on their home field tonight in a big primetime match.
That's a big loss for Oregon.
Was on the campus.
Yeah, that's a huge loss for Oregon, and that'll shake up that position in the top 5 for sure. Indiana is for real. I think they're for real now. I don't know whether they can compete at the level that they competed today against Oregon on the road with the Ohio States of the Big Ten. We'll find out because they're going to have to eventually play the Ohio States and the Michigans in the Big Ten. And if they can clear those 2 hurdles, guess what? I think Indiana is one of the best teams in the country. They have Fernando Mendoza, who's a quarterback who transferred from Cal. His father played with Mario Cristobal at Christopher Columbus High School in Miami. Mendoza Jr., he played at Christopher Columbus High School in Miami. And he looks very impressive as a quarterback for the poise and Kirk Cignetti for Indiana, man. I mean, coach of the year. Come on, Kirk Cignetti is one of the best coaches in college football at the Division I level. I remember when he was at James Madison, he completely flipped that program and turned it around for the better. So it was a beautiful thing in the sense that he was able to get this win on the road because it's very hard to win in Oregon. I mean, against the Ducks. It's just the reality of things,
I hope that Indiana has enjoyed their time with Kirk Cignetti because Kirk Cignetti is going to be somewhere else next year.
I think Indiana he will too. I think he's going to be offered. You know what? There's a potential, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there right now for you. If they dump James Franklin and they owe James Franklin over $50 million, but that's like I said before, that's not a lot of money for a lot of these boosters, especially when they want you gone. They'll give you your money. I mean, that's guaranteed money that he'll get. But Kirk Cignetti could easily be offered that Penn State job. I'm going to just throw it out there right now.
You know who else has a $50 million buyout right now?
Who?
Mike Norvell. They might be looking to make a move in Florida State, and
That's true.
And maybe Cignetti's the guy that they might want to call from Florida State. Last year's Indiana team was a good team, but everybody knew they were there as a function of their schedule because when we saw them against the big boys, they got pushed around. This year's Indiana is not getting pushed around. In the trenches, this year's Indiana team is good. They push Oregon around. The final score was 30-20. They were up 20-13, and Mendoza threw a pick six that let Oregon tie the game.
I saw that pick six. Yes, in
Oregon
the highlight.
Scored 13 points with their offense. Indiana up front was pushing Oregon around. I don't think they can do that to Ohio State either, but I think Indiana could do that to a lot of teams in the country because we saw them. They beat Illinois by something crazy, like 40-something points. They push Iowa around. I think Indiana is going to push a lot of those. Like Indiana has shown me today, they are the second best team in the Big Ten. And there's no way that in hell I would have ever said that a week ago or 2 weeks ago. But that is the second best team in the Big Ten. And for those teams in that conference, that's saying a lot. What Cignetti has done to Indiana should be praised under any circumstances. And we know he's going to go take another job, but man, the Indiana fans should be ecstatic about the state of their program right now with that guy at the helm.
Yeah, because if you look at how the Indiana is playing and how they've played since Cignetti have arrived, I mean, he's brought that kind of that swagger and that type of mojo for that team to be able to play at the level that they're playing at right now. And, he's going to be offered a pretty big bag to leave there eventually. And like you said, it could be Florida State. It could be, depending on where he lands, he's going to land somewhere and he's going to be looking pretty for him. And he'd be the perfect candidate for any program for that matter. So here's UCLA. They beat Michigan State today and they blew Michigan State up.
They beat them by a lot, and they beat them on the road. They beat them on the road, too.
Yeah, Michigan State is a tricky situation to me because I thought Jonathan Smith, who was the coach at Oregon State, I thought he was going to, turn Michigan State around when Mel Tucker got fired. But it doesn't look good right now. And I don't know whether it's the athletes that Smith has, or what do you think? Is it the athletes, or is it just his dynamic is not working at Michigan State right now?
They got pushed around in this game. UCLA was dominating them up front, and specifically on their defensive line. Michigan State's defensive line was a joke out there. UCLA was running the ball down their throats. I think it is the athletes. I don't know what you do in that situation because, again, the last coach was Mel Tucker, and we all know how that ended. It didn't just end that way because of the scandal. They were happy to get off of that money because things were already going sideways on the field before that scandal happened. So that program is in a very bad spot. They thought they had a quarterback this year, and he wasn't great today. But losing to UCLA is one thing, but they got completely run out of their own stadium by UCLA, who a couple weeks ago we were thinking was maybe the worst team in P4. That's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. And also, I hate to do this because I really like that guy that UCLA had before they fired him. What the hell was he doing with that? What the hell was going on in that building before he was fired? That looks like a completely different ball team. They had 2 days. That new coaching staff got their job the Tuesday before the Penn State game. So they had a short week. Now they have a full week, and they go beat the hell out of Michigan State. What was going on in that whole locker room and that whole front office before they made coaching changes? That does not look like the same football team. I'm not saying that they're one of the best teams in the nation, but they damn sure don't look like they looked before. They looked like they were going to go 0-12, and now they've got real life, and the kids are believing in whatever the new coaches are talking about. The kids are believing in it. And
Tim Skipper, I think he was a special teams coach, and he's the current interim coach. But if you look at the offensive coordinator, and I think they designated Jerry Neuheisel. Jerry Neuheisel is Rick Neuheisel's son, and Jerry Neuheisel, he's been with UCLA for quite some time, and I admire Jerry Neuheisel because he didn't use his father's name to get ahead. He didn't use his father's name to cement himself. He started from the ground up. He worked his way up, and if you wouldn't have known that he's blood to Rick Neuheisel, you would have never known that he would, get this far, because I don't think he ever used that as leverage to try to position himself in an organization or in a program. I think Jerry Neuheisel has a lot of potential, and I think he's going to be offered at some point a head coaching job somewhere. And I think he's going to do well wherever he goes, because, Rick Neuheisel was a pretty good coach when he coached. When he coached at Colorado, and when he went to Washington, he got fired at Washington because of some, how they play, when they ask you, do you want to play? It's not technically gambling, but when you want to buy, I can't think of the term right now, but when you want to buy like a square where you can play and be in a system where you can win money. I think that's what Rick Neuheisel ended up getting let go for. But yeah, UCLA looks like they are all together different team. I think that they are going to hire a big name, even though Tim Skipper is turned his team. I think they want a splash hire to come in there. I really do. And we don't know. John Gruden is looking for a job.
He might not give them a chance to go out and make a hire if they keep playing like they're playing now.
If they keep playing like they're playing now, I agree. I think Tim Skipper would get an opportunity to interview for that job for the permanent, and Jerry Neuheisel could potentially end up interviewing for the head coaching job as well. Or they could keep it just like it is now. Jerry Neuheisel stays offensive coordinator, and it goes that way, I would think.
What a crazy sport that's something that can happen. And yeah, obviously I like Foster, but Neuheisel also played for UCLA just like Foster did. And so Neuheisel getting this moment where he's the OC, his first time as the OC at the team where he actually played for, that's got to feel like the Lord putting something in your life that's just supposed to work out.
Exactly.
I could not be more happy for that program.
He never left the program. He played at UCLA just like his father did. I watched his father, Rick, played in the 80s. He played in the 80s, and Rick Neuheisel was a good quarterback when he played under Terry Donahue, because Terry Donahue was coaching that team back then, So some of the scores that I'm looking at now, it looks like Georgia has just got started with Auburn. So we'll see how that one kind of unfold during the
Big
game,
game.
of course.
Big game.
But it looks like Florida is tied with Texas A&M right now into the first quarter.
Defense is optional out there. It's just been a shootout. It's 14-14. They're going up
Yes.
and down the field on each other.
Yes. So let me ask you your honest opinion on NIL. So if a player is not playing up to their potential with NIL, do you think their NIL contract should be looked at and should be scrutinized because of that? Because there was some rumors swirling out of Florida that DJ Lagway wasn't playing up to his potential and his NIL contract was being questioned. You think that should potentially happen when a player is not playing well?
I think the fans are going to question it, but I don't think that the people internally should be questioning it, because if you look at DJ Lagway, first of all, getting his wide receiver one, who maybe we didn't know was his wide receiver one on the outside because we've never seen the kid play, but getting his wide receiver one made him look different. That makes sense, right? This is my guy that I'm going to beat you deep with, and what I do best is I throw the deep ball. And if you take that away from me, I'm going to look like a different quarterback. I don't think that that's all that was happening. Clearly, the kid was also hurt the whole damn camp, so he didn't really get any reps. And so I think now he's just coming into form. He's been great in this game so far. Him and Marcel Reed are going up and down the field on each other so far. So I just think that he had to get healthy, and having a real wide receiver one is making him look better. But I think because of where we are in terms of the money, the only thing that changed is that now we know about the money, but the top level guys have been making money off the books for years and years and years. So now that everybody knows, or at least has some kind of idea how much this guy costs, of course fans are going to be mad. Imagine how those Penn State fans feel
about Drew Allen, right?
Their roster probably cost them $13, $14, $15 million this year. They can't beat Northwestern and UCLA. That's not good. They still don't have a P5 win. They got one of the most expensive rosters in the Big Ten. So
they do.
Of course the fans are going to feel a way if you're telling me it's a money game now and we have the money and we still look this bad, what is the issue? And unfortunately for James Franklin, the answer to that question is going to be James Franklin is our issue. They're going to boot him out of there. But I think it's only natural that the players are going to be questioned, because we are slowly marching towards we're making quote unquote amateur sports or college sports into professional sports. So we're making this. We got GMs in college football. Like we are running an NFL franchise. It's only a matter of time before we see a trade. Hell,
absolutely.
Tennessee, UCLA traded quarterbacks this offseason.
Right. I can see that. That's a good point. That's a well stated point. It looks like here Colorado ended up pulling it off against Iowa State today. That's an impressive win for Coach Prime, man.
That's their first Big 12 win, and Coach Prime was in and out of the hospital like literally this week again.
Yes,
dealing with some health issues. So for him to be able to get a win like that, good for them, because they've been struggling with that offense. That offense has been bad. You lose a Heisman Trophy winner and pro first round pick, and then you lose a pro quarterback. Maybe that's what you expect to happen, but they've had some growing pains. But that's a massive win for Deion.
It's a huge win because Iowa State has got a good team. They're not any kind of pushover program that you could say, look, this is a Division II team we played against and we got the win against them. Iowa State is a very competitive team. And to get this win 24-17, looks like Colorado's record is 3-4 right now, 1-3 in the Big 10 or in the Big 12, excuse me. Yeah. And for them to pull this off against the Cyclones, this might be the turn that they need to turn their season around, if you think about it, to go to a decent bowl, because they're not going anyplace else, of course.
Arkansas is only down 3 in this game. Tennessee's got the ball with 30 seconds left. Man, Arkansas, I'm glad y'all talked about Arkansas this week, because you never know what it looks like after a coaching change. You just never know.
Right.
You talked about UCLA, but a coaching change could drive you into the tank. Arkansas lost by about 1 million points to Notre Dame in their own stadium. So for them to go into Knoxville and play a real game where they look like a real team that should be on the same field as those guys, I know nobody wants a moral victory, especially in the SEC. But Arkansas fans got to be feeling good about, okay, we finally look like we have at least, like, we are some level of functionality on defense, because Notre Dame could have scored 70 on them if they wanted to. It was that bad. It was that bad, and that was 2 weeks ago.
I think it's just the difference in the style of coaching between Pittman and Petrino. Petrino is the type of guy that, to me, he's the type of guy that he wants results. He don't care about anything else. He don't want any excuses. He's a results oriented and a results driven type of coach. And we were just talking last week because he fired 2 defensive coaches right when he took over, and we were wondering, like, how does an interim coach come in and start firing coaches unless they've, committed to him to say, look, you are a guy, right? I mean, is that the way it works, or does the athletic director and the administration tag the interim coach and they don't allow the interim coach to do certain things? But it looks like he's got full control of this program now, which he'll permanently have.
Great point. And obviously he's going to angle himself to get this job. We won't talk about the scandal that came about in his administration the first time. All we know right now is that the fans love Bobby Petrino.
Winning.
The offense, they love winning. They love Bobby Petrino. And if he's going to he's going to ruin someone's season, and then he's going to cut a promo, and he's going to try to get this job. And they didn't beat Tennessee today. The game's final now, but they competed. And that's a good first step. That's a great first step. You played a top 12 team in their house, and you look like you deserve to be on the field with them. It didn't look like you were playing a different sport. So
we predicted it.
That's growth.
I mean, we predicted it on our show last week. We said they're going to play a lot better. They're going to win now. And winning trumps anything else. Winning trumps the nice guy approach. The winning trumps the friendship type of approach that some coaches come into a program and they look, I got to be friends with these players. I got to be really easy going on these players. Bobby Petrino is a business coach. He's all business. He ain't trying to become your friend. He just wants you to come in there and he wants you to perform up to standard or exceed standard to be able to play to get his wins, because it's all about technically building his own resume, because he was the type of coach back in the day where every time a position came open, his name was thrown in the hat back in the day. When he was at Louisville, everything came open. The Auburn job came open. His name was thrown in the hat. So I think I'm going to go ahead and say he's got the job already. It'll just be official after the season is over, and and he can get off the ground and start recruiting, get into that portal, get the right kind of players to come up in Arkansas. And I can promise you, Arkansas is going to be a very competitive team next year, I believe.
I would not be surprised. What do you think about? I know a lot of Auburn fans, and the Auburn fans have been saying basically, if Hugh Freeze doesn't find a way to win this game, which is a night game at home against Georgia, they think Hugh Freeze should be fired. It's year 3. Hugh Freeze has had 2 straight top 10 recruiting classes. They spent money in the portal. I think they have the best portal class, or the second best portal class in the nation. So the people are basically putting it on and say, okay, Hugh Freeze, you haven't beat anybody. They barely lost to Oklahoma. And so, I think the fans have, I guess there's some credence to what the fans are saying. I personally don't think Hugh Freeze is a very good football coach. I think he's an underachiever. But I do think that if you want to quiet that kind of noise, you got Georgia in your stadium. You go beat Georgia tonight. And Georgia's already shown us to be a little suspect on defense. But but also Auburn's passing offense is a mess, because our offensive line is bad, and Jackson Arnold, sometimes like Arch Manning, just holds onto the ball for entirely too long.
Right. He does hold on to the ball too long.
Stands there petting the ball, making love to the ball. And that is my least favorite kind of quarterback to watch. You have to be quick in your decision making. You can't just sit back there touching the ball for 30 minutes. It ain't going to work, especially in the SEC. These kids out there will kill you out there. And that's how you give up 9 sacks to Oklahoma, because you sat back there and pat the ball. I think Arch Manning got sacked once, maybe twice in this game. You can't let their defensive line just neutralize your offense. And so,
you brought up
in the red zone right now, so we'll see.
You brought up a very good point. It looks like Auburn just scored. I believe Arnold just ran it in for a touchdown.
Okay, good start.
Hugh Freeze's future is going to depend on technically this game and the Alabama game. If he could get these 2 games, if he could win this game tonight, and they can win against Alabama in the Iron Bowl,
they might give him more money. They might say, "Oh,
he could cement himself into the Auburn's." Because they don't technically. I mean, if they fire Hugh Freeze, who are they going to bring in? That's my question. Who could they bring in other than maybe Kirk Cignetti, if Kirk Cignetti was interested in this job, if it were to become, the opportunity were to open up. But, I mean, Hugh Freeze
I
is,
wouldn't
to
recommend
me,
it.
I thought
I
what he
wouldn't
did at
recommend.
Mississippi was not impressive, but what he did is he was able to turn that Mississippi program in a direction where it put it on the course it is today when Lane Kiffin took it over, technically. Um, Now, there was some questions about illegal recruiting and some of the things that was going on inside that program while Hugh Freeze was there.
That's
So
true
I
too.
was really shocked to see he was given a second chance to come back up to the Division I level to play. I mean, to coach at that level, because technically he was over at Liberty and he was winning at Liberty, because Jerry Falwell Jr. gave him the opportunity to try to, rekindle himself and get himself back in to coaching again. But I just thought that he, I don't think I'm not impressed with him as far as I'm concerned, you know.
I'm not either.
But if he ends up winning this game tonight, and if he wins up in winning that Iron Bowl with Alabama, that'll make all those fans forget about a lot of stuff that's going on inside that program, you know.
What do you think of this USC Michigan game right now? USC
Right now,
is
Michigan
up
is over at the
7-0 with the
Coliseum
ball.
playing, right?
Yep. And
That's
USC's up
going to be
7-0, and
a
they got the ball.
deciding game for Lincoln Riley, because Lincoln Riley is another coach that's on teetering on the bubble. They paid Lincoln Riley a lot of money to come out here to turn this program and get some of the mojo back that it had back in the day when Pete Carroll was there. And Jerome Moore is trying to keep the Michigan program solid from what Jim Harbaugh left him. So you got two coaches just kind of vying for an opportunity to be able to solidify their programs, for the future, for recruiting, for NIL, for those type of things. But I think Riley is on a shorter leash. Don't you think?
I agree with that. USC also just fumbled in the red zone, so Michigan's got the ball back.
Mm-hmm.
USC had a great drive going to go. You got a chance to go up 10-0, 14-0, and you fumble. I mean, that's just the kind of, the USC looked okay against nobodies, but then they lost to Illinois, so they really need this win. And when it comes to Michigan, I don't think anyone's talking about Sharon Moore and his job security. But if Michigan, and he's got a freshman quarterback, so we give him a little grace there. But if Michigan were to lose to USC, also out having a loss to Oklahoma, I just wonder when they will start turning the temperature up on Sharon Moore, because he hasn't really shown yet that he could be the guy. And last year, he gets the job like in transition as Harbaugh's going away. So they kind of excused the fact that team just wasn't ready to compete. They didn't have a quarterback on the roster. Now you got your quarterback, and you need some big wins this year, and you haven't really gotten one yet. And so beating this ranked USC team at USC will be a big win if Michigan's able to go do it. And I think with that defense and that quarterback, that kid's gonna that Bryce Underwood's a very talented kid. You can tell he's a freshman.
Underwood is very talented. Yes.
He's got the training wheels on, but he's a very talented guy, and he's getting better every week. So I think that this is a game. If you're Michigan, you got to go win, because you should be better in the trenches. You should have a better defense. You should run the ball better than them, even though USC has been pretty good at running the ball this year. So I think that Michigan should go get that win. And right now they're down 7-0, but they got the ball back. So.
Well, D'Anton Lynn, which is Anthony Lynn's son, is the defensive coordinator for USC, and they have made improvements. Have you noticed? They have made some drastic improvements in the way their defense comes up and the way they tackle, the way that they read offenses and being able to get to the ball, unlike they were before D'Anton Lynn got there. D'Anton Lynn was coaching UCLA's defense, and they had a pretty good defense when he was there. Mm-hmm. So I think what USC did was pluck him right out of UCLA, and they have played much better on defense for USC, although they still show signs of weakness from time to time. They beat Michigan State. Okay, so Michigan State lost today. Come on.
By a lot. So,
I mean, USC is going to have to prove week in and week out that they can beat these better teams. They're going to have to prove that they can beat the Michigans and the Ohio States and the Oregons and teams like that before the Lincoln Riley can kind of rest and say that I don't have to worry about my job, right?
You know what the weird part about last year, just like you said, that defense was abysmal 2 years ago. And last year, the defense got better, but the results didn't get better because the offense got much worse. You lose
Correct.
Caleb Williams. You don't have a quarterback yet. They found the current guy, Maeva, kind of later in the year. But if you remember, they started the year with Miller Moss, who now starts for Louisville. And that
Right.
didn't go very well. And they lost I think they were like 0-6 in one score games last year. So they had like 4 or 5 fourth quarter leads in games that they eventually lost last year. So the defense did play better last year, but then the offense couldn't play well. So going into the year, a lot of USC fans had hope that now we got a better defense. Our offense is going to get better. We found our quarterback. So now we can go from being an 8-4 team, a 7-5 team, to a 9-3 team, a 10-2 team. And like you said, you can't do that unless you go prove it against the best teams in the country. And USC hasn't had an opportunity to do that yet. So they got one. They're in your stadium. You need to go beat a freshman quarterback in your stadium. And if you don't go beat a freshman quarterback in your stadium, that hot seat's going to get hotter for Lincoln Riley.
That hot seat is going to get very hot for Lincoln Riley. But let me ask you this. Who do you think would be a coach that could replace Lincoln Riley if they were to indeed get rid of him?
I think they should be looking at Alex Golish at USF, who had a big win yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should be looking at – I think every opening in the country should be calling Kirk Cignetti. Maybe Cignetti doesn't want to come be a flashy Hollywood guy. That's not an out for everyone, but some coaches do want to come be a flashy Hollywood guy. Me personally, I would be hesitant to move on from Lincoln Riley as of yet. Now, if it goes 6-6, 7-5 again, you really got no choice. But let's say USC loses to the Michigans, the Ohio States, the Oregons of the world, and they can beat everybody. Well, they already lost to Illinois. I don't think I would get rid of him yet. I would think about the buyout number, but I can understand if they do make a move on him this year if he doesn't get it right. But if you remember, man, he had those Oklahoma teams humming.
He did. He had those Oklahoma teams, but he always had a weak defense when he was even at Oklahoma.
Defense. He always had an awful defense. I think you need to let him go get his quarterback. If it's Jaden Maeva, then so be it. If it's somebody else, then so be it. But, USC fans are tired, and unfortunately, these things compound upon themselves. It ain't just that the Lincoln Riley tenure has not been very good. It's also that the previous tenure wasn't very good. And so USC fans have been feeling like they haven't had a legitimate contender football team in a long time, other than the fact that Caleb did go win a whole bunch of games, but their defense was never good enough to be a threat. So even when Caleb was there winning games, everybody knew they're not a serious contender because they can't go make the playoffs because they ain't got a defense. And Caleb can go out there and get 6 touchdowns a game, but that don't mean much when they're giving up 7 touchdowns a game. So, they need to have balance. You can't just win by trying to score 65 on everybody every week. And I think Lincoln Riley started to slowly figure that out, but now he doesn't have the same high-powered offense that he usually has. There's some of that's just bad luck. It
is. I mean, and sometimes the dots just flat out don't line up for some of these coaches under certain conditions and certain circumstances, and they have to dig deep into their toolbox to make sure that they have backup plans in case, because each coach I always think is one loss away from being unemployed. I mean, that even goes for some of the best coaches that's in the league, that's in college football.
2 weeks ago, we wouldn't have been talking about James Franklin's job, and now that might be the number one topic. And every podcast you hear this week, it might be James Franklin's job. Now you're going to start to hear Brent Venable was undefeated in a top 5 team, and all of a sudden now you're going to hear Oklahoma fans saying, "See this Brent Venable guy? I don't know if he's the guy. He went 6-7 last year, and now you lose to Texas embarrassingly again." These things turn on the drop of a hat, man. 1 week you're on top, the next week you're on the bottom.
That's right. I'm gonna just go ahead and throw this out there that I think James Franklin will be back next year. I don't think they're gonna cut him loose. I could be wrong. I've made some predictions before, but I do think that he will get an opportunity to come back next year. But one thing I did mention in the last show is he's got to recruit more athletic quarterbacks. I don't have anything against drop back quarterbacks and quarterbacks who can go under center or quarterbacks who can stand in the shotgun. You have to have a quarterback in today's age, or not, should I say, you have to have a quarterback in today's age to be able to avoid the rush. And they have to be able to make plays sometimes when a play breaks down. you have to have a quarterback, and that's what Michigan has. I mean, they have with this freshman, Bryce Underwood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about that, he's going to develop and get better over time. And I think Franklin has recruited quarterbacks, typical drop back quarterbacks, can't move very well. And some of them have moved better than others. But overall, I think he's got to just do a better job recruiting quarterbacks, at least for sure.
Some damn wide receivers, like
wide receivers.
They don't ever have a wide receiver. They always got a super tight end and never a wide receiver. Can I tell you Penn State's next 3 games? Because I think James Franklin is going to be fired in the next 3 weeks.
You think they're going to cut him loose?
They play at Iowa next week. First of all, I wouldn't be surprised if he got fired like today. But if it doesn't,
or tomorrow,
today,
or
tomorrow, they play at Iowa today. Iowa's currently up 20-0 on Wisconsin. Iowa's okay. Maybe they can beat Iowa, but Iowa's better than Northwestern and better than UCLA. And the game is at Iowa. And I can guarantee you, those Iowa fans are going to smell blood in the water. That's going to be a loud fucking – that
for sure. For sure.
That stadium's going to be rocking. 2 weeks later – actually, I think there's a bye. So then they got a bye, a much-needed bye. Then they go at Ohio State. We all know how that game's going to go.
Well, now, if he don't get fired this weekend and they give him an opportunity to try to finish the season out and he go in and they beat Ohio State, that might secure him.
No chance in hell.
Not a chance in hell. Yeah.
After they play Ohio State, they play home against Indiana.
So now he could really redeem himself if he end up beating Ohio State and Indiana, right?
If he's given a chance. Indiana, that would be the inverse of James Franklin. We know James Franklin to lose all the big games and win all the other games.
Yeah.
He goes out there and loses to UCLA and Northwestern and then beats Ohio State and Indiana in back-to-back weeks. We are fully on tilt in terms of the James Franklin experience. That would be incredible.
So it looks like Penn State has got a backup quarterback named Ethan Grunkemeyer. So technically he's a sophomore, and we'll see what he can do.
Tight end name.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
We'll see what he can do because Drew Aller is gone for the year, and Drew Aller will be on his way to the NFL. So he's done at Penn State, and that's probably why he got so emotional today. I feel bad for the young man.
It's your last game.
I pray for him that he can recover and he can get back and get beyond this injury to move forward in his life and in his career because he wants to play professional football. So we're going to be holding out hope for him to get better. But we'll see what James Franklin can do. Now, I would say you're pretty close to being right with them being able to buy James Franklin out for $50 million because I was saying that was chump change for a lot of the boosters and administrators who want to get rid of him, technically.
They already, the fans already weren't happy after losing to Oregon because it's like, God, are we ever going to win a big game? And now in the last 2 weeks, that's not even the conversation anymore. It's, oh my God, we can't even win the little games.
Right.
That is not good, man.
It's a crazy situation. So let's kind of wind it down and talk about Notre Dame a little bit and Marcus Freeman. They've been winning pretty big lately. What do you think Notre Dame's chances will be to try to get into this 12-team rotational playoff system at the end of this season?
They got one real game on their schedule left, and it's USC. And we don't know if the USC game is real yet. If USC goes on here, for example, and loses by 17 at home to Michigan, then USC is not a real game either.
Right.
So it's going to be – so I think that Marcus Freeman obviously knows that, and they've been trying to drop 1 million points on everybody. And I think it will be successful if they do that to everyone. But if they struggle with any of these teams left on their schedule other than USC, who could be ranked when that game is played, it's going to look bad. They obviously can't lose again, but I also think they can't have a slow start to a game and win, beat some of these teams on their schedule. You win by 10, they're going to hold that against you. And so I think that they're going to be a super fun team to go gamble on if you like to gamble, because they're going to try to put up 1 million points in every game just to puff out their chest and show, hey, we might have lost those 2 games early, but look at what we did. And we barely lost those 2 games. And, of course, that Aggie game ended on the worst holding call you've ever seen not being called.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Like that keeps playing back in my mind is insanely crazy,
So
That was
I don't think they're dead. I don't think they're dead yet. I think Notre Dame is very much alive. They have a heartbeat. It ain't the strongest heartbeat, but they're very much alive and well for the playoffs as we speak right
right. So it looks like they have USC next week at
now. Oh
Notre
God.
Dame. So they blew up North Carolina State today. You think Dave Doran is going to survive at North Carolina State? Because they have not been winning. I
No,
mean,
that's a
consistently.
disaster. That's a disaster. They thought that they were going to be good at certain points of this Dave Doran tenure, and they just haven't been there. As somebody who I went to law school in the area, and so I have a great affinity for the schools in the Triangle. And
Mm-hmm.
USC, and NC State's kind of been a disaster fire for a little while now. They're not really
Mm-hmm.
relevant. And you see what Duke is doing with their football program right now. Obviously, UNC is a mess, but what Duke is doing with their football program, they have a legitimate football program. They have a team that's 3-0 in the ACC.
Well,
And
Manny
what Manny
Diaz
Diaz
is
is
the real
doing
deal.
there, yeah, he's doing a good job there. So you're losing kids to Duke in football, which is not what you ever signed up for. If you were an NC State fan, you don't expect to lose football recruits to Duke. That was unheard of 10 years ago.
That's
So
right.
they can't risk falling behind. I think they're going to have to go make a move. I think it's time to go make a move. And
So that
go
could
get one of these
potentially be
G5
a
guys.
possibility that North Carolina and North Carolina State could have openings if Bill Belichick walks away, right?
And that's going to be super interesting because what job is more attractive in the market? Which job is a better job in the market if you want to live in that area? Which job does G5 Coach A want? Maybe I guess UNC probably has a
I
bit
would say
more
North
money.
Carolina because of the
Me too,
prestige
probably.
of the school. I mean, I would just say because NC State is a state school. They've always had a super super good basketball program at that school. Ever since Jim Valvano was there back in the '80s, and they won that national championship and everything. However, their football team is popular to most basketball fans. So I would say
Facts.
UNC, and UNC is pretty much the same because when UNC was winning all those national championships in basketball, that even brought the program more exposure.
More exposure,
However,
yeah.
I just think that overall that UNC, if you coach there and you can turn that program around and get them back on point, I think UNC would definitely be the job that would intrigue most coaches.
Yeah, that makes sense. We could have both
Yeah,
those coming open. It's what an interesting year in coaching it's been, especially because last year was so quiet. There were very few P4 coaches that actually lost their jobs last year, and we've already got 3 that have lost their jobs this year, and there are more to come. Like they're guaranteed more to come. That's just the way that it is. When you have a quiet year, they're gonna be
yep.
blood the next year. It's just gonna be blood.
So do you think Luke Fickell is at risk at Wisconsin?
He's done. They're down 20-0 right now at home to Iowa. It's a disaster. It's things have gone so bad for Luke Fickell. I thought that was such a good hire when they made it,
I
and they
thought so
haven't
too.
been even remotely good. Like they got some bad luck. Like they played Alabama twice since Luke Fickell's been there. Both times they lost their starting quarterback before the game. That's bad luck. But you just like they don't even look like they're competing right now in the middle class of the Big Ten. We're not even talking
Right.
about at the top levels of the Big Ten. They're not even competing in the middle class. They're not even competing like a Minnesota is in the Big Ten, and that's not. Wisconsin spends too much money on football to be looking up at Minnesota in the standings every year.
Absolutely.
That change is happening. That change is happening.
Yeah. Well, what about PJ Fleck at Minnesota? I mean, he hadn't been doing anything spectacular. I mean, he's a good coach and everything, but I have never seen Minnesota got better the first several years after he got there. They played much better and they played at a higher level, but Minnesota is not competing for positions in the Big Ten championship, or at least
Not
they're
at
not
all.
being able to step up to the plate and match some of these teams' intensities and winning percentages, right?
I haven't even heard a lot from the Minnesota fan base that they want Fleck fired. I think he's just like one of those guys that has job
I think they're
security.
just happy with him winning
I think they're
and
just
them finishing 500, maybe, right? And going
go
to a
6-6.
decent
We'll
bowl
go
every
to a bowl
year.
game and we'll be happy. And like maybe Minnesota fans won't like to hear us say that, but that's at least what it looks like to me from the outside because it's not like I'm like we're hearing the Wisconsin fan base loud and clear want Luke Fickell the hell out of there. I haven't really heard that from Minnesota.
Right.
Minnesota's playing right now. They're playing Purdue, so they should be. I'm sure they're winning. I don't see the actual score yet, but they just picked Purdue off, so they're definitely going to be winning. Purdue's not very good, But Purdue is another. That's one of those teams that's rebuilding, and Purdue, after one coaching change, has looked better. They're not. Purdue's up 7-0. Purdue is a better
Purdue
team
looks
than they
impressive
were
to me.
last year.
Yeah,
They're a much better team than they were
yeah.
last year. They were really bad last year, but I mean.
Well, it looks like Kurt Ferentz at Iowa, and I'm always questioning the Iowa fan base as well because he had his son as the offensive coordinator, and then the athletic director pretty much told him, "Your son's not going to be the offensive coordinator." Yeah, she got rid of his son because he wasn't going to fire his son. Of course not. He's the second. He's the longest tenured coach in Division I college football. He's been at Iowa since Hayden Fry retired in 1999. Do you think crazy. Iowa is going to want him gone? Or, I mean, because Iowa's constantly going to bowls every year, technically. Mm-hmm. They're not competing for championships, though.
A lot of 10-win seasons. They played for a couple of Big Ten championships. They weren't competing for them. They got blown off the table in all those games. But, no, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's kind of entrenched there. The funniest thing about Iowa football is, remember, before they fired the son in that last year as offensive coordinator, they put a stipulation in his contract that he had to score a certain number of points to not get fired. And about midway through the season, it was clear he was not going to hit that number.
Well, they set that trap for him. I mean, they had to set that trap up for him, right?
They said, listen, we don't want to fire your son. Just have him go score 21 points a game. He didn't get anywhere near 21 points a game. 21 points a game for Iowa is like a regular team scoring 42 points a game. That's way 3 touchdowns. Iowa fans don't roll out of bed expecting to see their offense score 3 touchdowns. That's just not what Iowa football is about.
Well, his son Brian, they said that he was, a lot of players and stuff was complaining about how, his coaching style, kind of like a lot what they said about Eric Bieniemy. These are system guys basically, and they want it done the way they want it, the way that they design it. And when you deviate away from that, a lot of times it can cause friction amongst a program.
Where's Bieniemy now? It never really worked out.
I think he's with Chicago. I think Eric Bieniemy is with the Chicago Bears under Ben Johnson.
The college team should go hire him, and it never happened.
I'm trying to understand why Eric Bieniemy can't get a head coaching job. He should have a head coaching job at some level. I mean, whether it's college or pro, right?
Now it might be too late, but I thought at the time where he was coming off being the Chiefs OC, I said somebody's gonna go hire that man, and apparently it just never happened. It just never happened. It just never happened for the guy.
Yeah, I think he deserved an opportunity to be able to coach at that level, and he wasn't never given an opportunity. And I thought it was just a bad idea, and I hate to say this, but he should have stayed with the Chiefs. Although a lot of people said that, he was seeking opportunity outside, and he didn't figure he could have an opportunity to coach unless he left the Chiefs, right? And he ended up going to Washington with Ron Rivera, and Ron Rivera at Washington was on his way out. So why would you go to an organization thinking that, okay, he's on his way out, but you think you can slot right into that job? It doesn't work like that.
That's not how it's going to work. That's not NFL.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah. So anyway, it looks like Texas once again, they won 23-6 today in a dominant fashion. The University of Texas looks like they're back on track. Steve Sarkisian called a great game today. His players stepped up to the plate. Arch Manning did everything he was supposed to do today. He didn't make mistakes. He didn't throw a whole bunch of picks. He ran when he needed to run. So, this at least calms the naysayers for 1 week, right?
Exactly. He gets to shut down the noise a little bit and lock back in and focus. Okay, you got over this big hurdle. Now you need to go. You can't go regress and be in a dogfight with Kentucky in the third quarter. Kentucky is probably the only team in the SEC that legitimately doesn't have a pulse. Every other SEC team could beat anybody. Kentucky's not one of those teams, so you need to go take care of business and beat Kentucky, and let's keep it moving with the schedule.
So one last thing before we close this show, do you think Kentucky will consider or entertain getting rid of Mark Stoops?
This one's a little weird because remember, Bob Stoops tried to leave 2 years ago when Texas A&M hired him, and then the fans got so mad that they didn't hire him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So the rumors were already out there that he was taking the A&M job, which was true. He was taking the job. They got rid of some people in the board of trustees at Texas A&M and went out and hired Mike Elko. So that was awkward because we all knew that he tried to leave Kentucky and then he got back stuck with them. And of course, it's been a disaster at Kentucky ever since. I think that I always thought that he would leave. I thought it would end last year. It didn't. I think now they're going to have to fire him. I think they were hoping he would walk away. He did not walk away last year.
That's what I thought, too. I thought that he should have probably just tucked his tail and walked away last year. It looks like a Kentucky insider, I'm reading an article right now, identifies a doomsday scenario for Mark Stoops, and he's got a $37 million buyout, which the Kentucky faithful and the Kentucky boosters and the people who are behind that program, I'm pretty sure they can buy him out as well. If they can buy Franklin out for 50+ million, right?
Yeah, you're saving money on basketball because you pay your current coach less than you were paying Coach Calipari. You went and got the BYU coach, and he took a discount. So use that money and those savings to go get a real football coach. Not that Mark Stoops isn't a real football coach because he's the best coach in Kentucky history. So
absolutely.
I'm not trying to take shots at him, but clearly the messaging is stale and the program is just in an awful place. Like there's no upward trajectory for the program, period whatsoever. It's time to go get a young face somewhere and start to rebuild something because Mark Stoops is not building anything for the long term at Kentucky because he's old. He ain't thinking about the long term, and he don't look great in the short term either. So what are you really building towards?
Exactly. So this year, potentially at the end of the season, man, we could probably have 5 or 6 openings in Division I coaching jobs. I mean, we just kind of went down the list, right, of coaches that might not be there in the next year. I mean, you're talking about Kentucky, you're talking about Wisconsin. I mean, there's other potential openings that could open up as well. So,
man, Georgia does not look good right now, man.
They're not looking too good right now.
They have 15 yards of offense, and Auburn has 145 yards of offense.
Yeah, Gunnar Stockton is going to have to really kind of do some things that he's probably not used to doing, I would think, and just get out front and kind of set the tone for a leadership position when it comes to that, kind of like what Ty Simpson did against them. I mean, because
that guy ain't meant to play from behind.
It's not. Yeah, that's a good point as well. But it's not looking good. They're down to 10-0 right now to Auburn. So anyway, we'll close this show out. We thank you, the viewer, for joining us today. The DC Stewart Show podcast, along with my special guest, TJ. We're so happy to have TJ join us today and give his take and his topics on, some of the things that are going on in college football and the NFL. NFL is tomorrow, so it's going to be a lot of games on tomorrow, and then we have our Monday night game coming up as well. And just go ahead and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, and we'll be having TJ back onto this show when he's available, and he's always welcome here. So whenever he wants to come on to the show, we're more than happy to have you. And just keep me posted on your schedule, and we'll definitely schedule you back in.
Bet. I appreciate the invite, and I love coming on. I'll be on again.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll close the show. Thank you for joining the DC Stewart Show podcast. Along with McKin Folk, Isaiah, and Najee. They will be back on Monday. We will do a full weekend sports recap on Monday morning, live stream. So we'll talk to you then. Take care. Take care of people around you. Peace, love, and prosperity. Take it easy. Take care.